In this final blog on creativity, I wanted to bring all the elements that I've been talking about together in a concrete example. So I've decided to pluck up my courage and be brave and use something of my own life to speak to this. As some of you know, I have attended once a year a mandala painting workshop. Now, I'm not a painter, I've never taken an art class or any training of that sort. And for me, this once a year opportunity is just a time to dive into a totally different world and immerse myself in what is possible. And so what happened this year was very interesting. Creativity is often born out of necessity. And in my case, there was some of that. I wanted a painting for my bedroom, and I'd been looking around and couldn't find anything that really felt right, that really had the feeling I wanted for that room. And Julie Prescott, an artist that I've mentioned, she's the jeweler, had taken a photo of a beautiful rose. And when I saw that photo, I thought that would be a perfect picture. And so out of the necessity of finding something that really would be perfect, there was the invitation to step into that creativity. Now, I want to tell you, I remember a friend of mine, she was fundraising for a not-for-profit, and she really wanted to have a great event and raise a lot of money for this very important charity. And so she commissioned a whole group of artists to create something that would be very unique. And her idea was to take a wooden chair, unpainted, and each artist had that as their canvas. Well, it was a huge success. The artists just took off. One artist took men's silk ties and wove them together for the seat of the chair. Some of the chairs were themes, some of them had jewels, and they were auctioned off with great success. So necessity, the mother of invention, is often a part of creativity. So I had the necessity, I wanted a painting. I had the inspiration, which is the second element. We need to be inspired by something to be creative, something that gets the juices flowing. It could be an article you've read, it could be nature, your own inner spirituality that you're learning and discovering. Whatever it is, something has to move you. And that's a key piece again, like DeWitt Jones said, the falling in love with something that opens up that creativity. So I knew what I wanted, which was a painting. I found an image, the rose that was photographed by Julie, and now I was set. Well, you begin by the background, and so I picked a nice neutral color that would really show off the rose, and I started painting the background. But it had streaks in it, and I wanted this beautiful, soft, satiny backdrop that would just show off the rose. And so I was very disappointed with the background, and then I remembered that an artist I'd seen a year before had sanded the canvas. So I start sanding this canvas. Painting, sanding, 2 days of painting and sanding the background. And people would come by wondering how the rose was coming along. There was no rose, there was only the background. And that's another element, I believe, in creativity, that often we have to be willing to just go with the flow, just stay the course. And so I painted and sanded until there was a moment that I just knew it was done. And that was something else that I truly believed. I knew that there'd be a point when I just felt that's enough. The background is done. And sure enough, there was a moment. So now I'm ready to paint that rose that everybody's been looking forward to, me included. And I realized that I actually have no idea how to capture a two-dimensional image and make it come alive like a three-dimensional, beautiful rose. I don't know anything about shading and shadows and dimensionality, but there are other people around that do. And so some artists start to help me with those elements, and gradually the rose emerges. And that's another element that I really think is often key. Just because we have creativity doesn't mean we know all that we need to know. So the learning was an integral part of how it all came together. Well, I bet you're wondering by now, how did that rose actually turn out? And so I'm delighted to show you the rose and to tell you how much fun it really was. It was an emerging, unfolding, blossoming of something that went from plain white canvas to a beautiful rose. So now let's talk about how essential is this creativity. This was a fun summertime thing that I did, but is it really essential? Well, I believe it's so essential that it's actually tied to our survival. And the reason I think that is I recently read a book called Abundance. The Future is Better Than You Think by Peter Diamandis and, let me get his name, Steven Kotler. They've written a book about the possibilities of the future, and it is amazing. They talk first about, over the last 3 decades, the incredible changes and how much more positive life really is. And that we often are just fed the negative in the news. We don't realize how much better life has become for the human race. But then they go to solving problems. How do we solve the things that really are challenging? Our planet, our people, our environment, and so on. Well, the solutions they offer are outrageous. They are amazing. They challenge your thinking. It's almost like counterintuitive. And so as I was reading that, I realized that unless we're open to out-of-the-box ideas, if we don't feel inspired by these possibilities, but instead feel afraid or challenged, we're going to put the brakes on. I already know people that back away from technology because it feels too overwhelming. They feel out of their depth. We need to step into that creativity, into those possibilities, because I really know that we could create an amazing future, but it will only come if we allow creativity to be part of how we solve problems. We cannot solve them from the place that created those problems, as we all know. So my invitation to you is, let's remember that creativity is falling in love with life, with what's around us. It's remembering there's more than one right answer. It's knowing that mistakes are just mistakes, and that we want to be making mistakes if we really are learning. And so I invite you to really support and nurture the creativity in yourself and the creativity in others as we move forward and look for amazing solutions to the everyday problems and the global problems that we face. If you're interested in a taste of what the Abundance book is all about, Peter has done an amazing TED Talk called The Case for Optimism. It's a great one, and we put a link in the text below. I hope you enjoy that, and bye for now.